Good morning, everyone. This is Mo. It is the 29th of April, and I am wearing my Don't Be a, well, Teopotamus t-shirt. Mr. Mo has finally won one of the t-shirt battles in our marriage. He's like, okay, well, if this t-shirt doesn't fit, you have to get rid of it. And it is, in fact, way too large. Uh, but then I made a counter offer. I was like, let me keep all of my stupid t-shirts and I will make them into a quilt, a t-shirt quilt, because my decorating is sarcasm, not shiplap. So Mr. Mo thought he had won, and then I snatched, defeat from the jaws of no victory from the jaws of defeat, and I saved them again. So all of my stupid t-shirts are going to be turned into a quilt some years from now. Good morning, Christine and Carol Sue Scott, Kay, Tammy CA, and Tammy Bogard, JKD Buck, and Audio Coffee. Good morning. We have a ton of news today. In big news, international news, it looks like a massive blackout hit both Spain and Portugal yesterday. And well, it's crazy. The power went out across all of Spain and Portugal on Monday, cutting cell phone and internet networks as well, halting trains and trapping people in elevators, officials have said. Now, Spain's government was scrambling to identify the origin of the huge outage, with Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez going to the headquarters of the state electricity network operator to be briefed. Now, I don't know about most politicians, but I'm guessing they're somewhat like me. So it's going to be like their head electronical magic people trying to explain to me how electricity works. This is going to go very well. Good morning, Colorado Mountain Girl and Denise Sells and Jason J. So the operator, Red Electricia, said that it would likely take 6 to 10 hours to restore the power in the country and urged people not to speculate as to the cause of the outage. Now, images posted on social media showed metro stations plunged into darkness with trains halted and people in offices and hallways using the lights on their cell phones to be able to see. The National Road Authority, DGT, told motorists to stop driving because stoplights were out, forcing vehicles to slow to avoid collisions, and police officers to direct, the traffic at intersections. AFP journalists in Madrid and Barcelona saw people coming into the street holding their smartphones up, trying to connect to a network. People were also trapped in lifts, Spanish media has reported. Now, Internet Activity Monitoring site NetBlocks told the AFP that the blackout was caused much of the much of the country to lose its digital infrastructure, saying web connections had plunged to just 17% of normal usage. Have you tried unplugging and replugging the modem? That's about all I know. And if you don't have power, I'm pretty sure, you can. And JKD Buck says, my son's Spanish assignment got canceled due to this. Their assignment was to go online and Zoom call their pen pals in Spain. Obviously, they couldn't do it yesterday. Well, he got out of homework. I will have to ask youngest most feral if you went near the Spanish, power grid. And also flights were delayed. Portugal's REN operator, in a statement to the AFP, said that all of the Iberian Peninsula was affected by the blackout, adding that the outage occurred around midday. There was also a brief blackout in southwest France, that country's electricity operator said, but power was restored after a short time. An electoral incident is currently affecting Spain and Portugal, the cause of which remains to be determined, France's high voltage grid operator RTE said. Now, the European Commission was in contact with Spain and Portugal to try to understand the underlying cause of the outage. Spain's railway operator Adif said that the power cut had halted trains across the entire country, while airport operator AENA said that all flights were delayed, but the country's airports were still semi operational thanks to contingency electrical systems. So they had a generator. Now, Spain's Red Electricia said that it had managed to start restoring power in the north and south of the country, but the problem was not yet resolved. Spain's paper posted photos on its website of stopped metro trains in Madrid, police directing traffic, and its own reporters working in a darkened office by, just, flashlights. It was also reported that hospitals' core departments were able to keep functioning because of backup generators, even if some other units were left without power. Now, generally, hospitals, airport, these kind of very necessary, functional places will have backup generators. So that is good. Massive blackouts have affected other countries around the world in recent years. Huge outages struck Tunisia in September of 2023, Sri Lanka in August of 2020, and Argentina and Uruguay in June 2019. So it does look like this is not out of the realm of, anything normal, but it does seem like there are some issues with the Spanish and Portuguese power grids that maybe need to be looked at. So, I mean, I don't know anything about electrolysis or electrology magic, so get some smart people over there, make them do math. That's basically how I direct all of my life. Get smart people and make them do math. Now, a manhunt is underway after a deranged driver shot a teen and woman caught on camera in a Philly road rage incident. Now, I this was from yesterday. I do believe that they have caught this person, but this is a wild story that came out of Philadelphia. We've got a little bit of a road rage theme going on this. A deranged driver opened fire on a 15-year-old boy and a woman in broad daylight during a road rage incident in Philadelphia on Monday, sparking a manhunt for him. Now, harrowing footage from the West Philadelphia 42nd Street and Giarda Avenue shows the moment the suspect, who has yet to be publicly identified, driving past the victim's car around 7 p.m., pulling out a force multiplier and, well, launching some freedom seeds. The suspect quickly fired on the vehicle multiple times, catching the teen in the arm and leaving a graze wound on the woman's chest. Just insanity. Now, the victim's car attempts to speed away from the shooter, but the suspect appears to chase after it. Now, surveillance footage caught the moments just before the shooting, which shows the suspect angrily yelling at the other car with his head out the window. Now, after the shooting, the suspect fled the scene in a 2016 or 17 silver Honda Civic, which police said was outfitted with an unknown license plate and vanity tag on the front bumper. The car also appeared to have damage, including both quarter panels were missing, as well as a missing passenger side front hubcap. Well, nothing parties like a rental. The subject was described as a bald man with a full beard, believed to be between 40 and 50 years old. The victims of the shooting were admitted to a nearby hospital, with both of them currently listed in stable condition, so that is good. The shooting is just one of 5 that broke out in the city of brotherly love on Monday night, all ironically occurring just hours after the district attorney, Larry Kastner, had touted a historic decrease in crime in the city. Now, he said that violent crime had dropped by 12% so far this year compared to the same time last year, and homicides have dropped 35%. So there you go. I mean, crime is down, except if you look at the news, because that's what happens. Well, if you like this popular spice, it could be interfering with some prescription medicine. I don't give you guys these news stories to doom monger you, but If I learned something new, I figure you could, and maybe you know someone who takes medications that could, be interfered with this spice. A new study has found that a beloved spice could be meddling with how your body processes prescription drugs. Well, I mean, that explains a lot. The culprit is cinnamon. Pumpkin spice latte will kill you. Pumpkin spice is the devil, can confirm. I now have scientific proof that my dislike of pumpkin spice lattes was just actually smart and healthy information. Researchers at the University of Mississippi have discovered that cinnamonahide, the primary component in cinnamon, can activate receptors that may accelerate the breakdown of certain medications, potentially reducing their effectiveness. While adding a of cinnamon to your morning latte is unlikely to cause issues, the study does warn that high doses could pose a risk. Now, I do know that cinnamon, and again, talk to your doctorologist about all medical choices. Do not take anything I say as medical advice. I mean, who would? But we do have to throw that out there. I know a lot of people that struggle with blood sugar have, taken cinnamon as a supplement. So, this could be something that people need to know. Health concerns could arise if excessive amounts of supplements are consumed without the knowledge of a healthcare provider or prescriber of medications. The principal scientist involved in the study, Shabana Khan, said overconsumption of supplements could lead to a rapid clearance of prescription medicines from the body that could result in the medicine being less effective. Now, researchers noted that cinnamon oil, which is commonly found in food flavoring agents and toiletry, purchase, poses virtually no risks uh, of causing interactions. So, if you like cinnamon oil, if you like to, eat it, put it in things, that doesn't seem to be a problem. However, it's the cinnamon bark, in particular, cassia cinnamon, which is the cheaper version from South China that contains a blood thinner called coumarin, which could potentially cause problems. True cinnamon from Sri Lanka carries a lower risk due to its reduced coumarin content, the study co-author Amar Chidabonya, Associate Director of the National Center for National Products Research. That particular component is an anticoagulant whose properties can be hazardous for individuals on blood thinners. So if you are on blood thinners, if your family's on blood thinners, make sure you're not just taking all of these cinnamon, especially the more cheap cinnamon that you're likely to get if you're not, getting pure Sri Lankan cinnamon. And good morning, Alice G. The ground cinnamon at your local supermarket is typically made with the cheaper cinnamon bark, not the Sri Lankan one. Now, cinnamon has long been celebrated for its potential health benefits, including blood sugar regulation, anti-inflammatory properties, and possibly being a good supplement for, diabetics. Again, talk to your doctorologist. Do not take any advice from me. I am wearing a twatopotamus t-shirt, okay? It's kind of, on you if you're just doing this. However, new research does underscore the importance of both moderation and letting your healthcare provider know, kind of the supplements that you're taking. People who suffer from chronic diseases like hypertension, diabetes, cancer, arthritis, asthma, obesity, HIV, AIDS, or depression should be cautious when using cinnamon or any other supplements, Khan said. Our best advice is to talk to your healthcare provider before using any supplements along with prescription medicines. By definition, supplements are not meant to treat, cure, or mitigate any disease. So it's always best to talk to your doctor just to make sure there aren't any, interactions that you could get in trouble with. In part two of our road rage themed morning, what in the name of all the grumpy grandpas? A road rage grandpa runs down a motorcyclist on i.e., by pitting him against the guardrail with his pickup truck. Now, what in the name of all that is Hades is going on here? A road rage grandpa took the life of a motorcyclist on the Long Island Expressway by pinning him against a guardrail with his pickup truck, authorities have claimed. Now, a Ford pickup driver, Brian Knoll, 64, of Sicko in look, Sissio, Sicko, I don't know. I don't do New York. In Western New York, became embroiled in a dispute with 29-year-old Bronx man Ibis Alex Baez on a green 2016 Kawasaki bike on LIE Service Road by New Hyde Park in Nassau County around 2:14 p.m. Friday, according to police. Now, Noel deliberately swerved his 2022 truck into the motorcycle, leaving the victim unfortunately crushed against the metal guardrail where he was pronounced no longer living. I mean, sir, I think you're all the guilties. I mean, pretty sure your truck doing, a signs with, Mel Gibson's wife next to a guardrail is kind of like all the guilties. Like, good luck with your life, Jen Bop Justice. Now, Baez's grieving brother-in-law, Goldwyn Redding, told the Post on Monday that the victim had a gentle spirit and he was never one to start a fight. Quote, he never wanted to go out and initiate any kind of confrontation with anyone, Redding said of Baez, who was an HVAC installer on Island driving to a job at the time. He was getting ready to go back to Florida in May for a fishing trip. So this is unfortunately the victim who lost his life. Redding said of his brother, he was working to move from New York to settle in Florida to open his own business just so he could essentially stay on the water as much as possible. Now, Noel, who had an uninjured 66-year-old woman in his passenger seat at the time, pled not guilty to second-degree murder over the weekend, according to News 12. In a statement to the outlet, his lawyer accused the motorcyclist of driving in, quote, the most reckless ways, end quote, and took exception to something that my client did in his truck. He positioned his vehicle, his motorcycle, alongside the truck and then took his hand off the throttle of the motorcycle, attempting to break off the mirror of the truck in a rage, the unnamed lawyer said, thereby causing the truck to lose control while he lost control of the motorcycle because he took his hand off the throttle and caused the collision. It was a horrible accident. Now, again, this is all going to be litigated, so I'm sure we're going to get much more information. That there might be, traffic cameras or other witnesses that, comes in. This is not the Karen Reed trial yet, no. But it almost could be. My client is a 64-year-old grandfather whose entire life working, living, and going to church in Long Island has and is now in retirement, was coming back to see some family because he recently moved upstate when a motorcycle was wreaking havoc. Havoc. It was havoc all over the place. Havoc on the roads and caused this incident. Now, Redding did tell the Post, we're just going to let the legal system play out. He added that Baez, who had four sisters and a brother, was known as a lover of fishing and would pull over to the side of the road if he saw a good body of water. So it does look like this case will be another case that will be coming up because there are two very distinct stories coming out of each side. And it will be up to, our legal system and all the investigation to figure that out. Well, gird your earloins because we've come to that time in the program where our distinguished Lord Chippy awaits his new round of candidates. And, with the world going the way it is, we need Lord Chippy on standby at all times. Well, our first story is both tragic and heartbreaking and just infuriating as all things. Because it always seems like, when we do some of these stories, it's really good people that we're just trying to help that lose their lives for what can honestly be recounted as no flippin' flapjack good reason, in my personal opinion. While the car was driving, a woman stabbed and killed a paramedic who was trying to help her just days after nearly taking a chunk out of a cop's arms, prosecutors say. Well, then why was she out after, nearly doing a Chandler on, a cop? But, why was she still on the streets if she tried to nibble a police officer? A Missouri woman is being held behind bars twice in the span of 1 week for two different alleged attacks on law enforcement and first responders, including the fatal stabbing of a paramedic who tried to give her medical attention and a police officer who nearly had a quote chunk of his arm end quote bitten off by this particular suspect, according to prosecutors. Shanetta Boswell, 39, is charged in Clay County Court with first-degree murder, armed criminal action, third-degree assault, and resisting arrest in connection to the paramedic's slaying, and another bite attack on a different police officer who tried to take her into custody early Sunday morning, according to Clay County's prosecutor's office. Now, she is also facing felony assault and resisting arrest charges for allegedly biting an off duty officer who says he caught her trying to break into vehicles on April 23rd. Daggone it, Jeff. I don't know what's wrong with YouTube. Now, prosecutor Zachary Thompson held a press conference hours after Graham Hoffman, a Kansas City Fire Department paramedic and firefighter, was allegedly unalived by Boswell. And he revealed how she had been arrested just 5 days earlier for trying to take a bite off an off duty cop. Again, how is this woman out on the streets? When we filed the initial charge and requested a warrant, it was granted, and the judge in that case, as with all criminal cases, reviewed the circumstances and determined the appropriate bond in that case was set at $10,000, and the defendant posted that bond. Well, I guess that answers my question, still doesn't make it right. I mean, you bite people as an adult, no bail for you. A quick review did not show any conviction for these type of offenses prior in Boswell's history. So the judge, going on the information that he had, maybe thought this was a one-off, or, she didn't have a history of being violent and she could be released on bond. That being said, after she was released on Sunday, police officers in Kansas City, Missouri responded to a call around 12:40 a.m. for a welfare check on a woman who was walking on the shoulder of Missouri 152 highway near North Oak Trafficway, according to court documents. Boswell was found at the location with a cut on one of her fingers, which prompted officers to call for an ambulance. Now, fire department paramedics arrived on scene, including Hoffman, and determined that Boswell was not attempting to harm herself or others. She was allegedly refusing, though, to go to the hospital. Prosecutors say that officers tried giving the woman a ride home, but she allegedly turned them down and said she would rather go in the ambulance, which she did end up doing. Officers agreed to follow the ambulance to the hospital, and the responders departed together with the squad car but just behind the ambulance. After the defendant was put in the ambulance initially and was being driven to the hospital, a police car was following the ambulance, Thompson said at the press conference on Sunday. While the car was driving, it is alleged that that is when the defendant began her attack. When the driver of the ambulance pulled over to the side of the road, that's when police officers became involved. Now, Thompson detailed how Boswell was in the back of the ambulance. And thank you, Obscure Destination Outdoor, for your super chat. Good morning to you as well. Thank you. So, Thompson described in detail how Boswell was in the back of the ambulance and being treated by Hoffman when the driver heard the victim call out that he needed help. According to Clay County prosecutor, the driver pulled over, out, and immediately went to the back to try to see what was going on because he hears his partner saying, like, help me, help me. And when they opened the back of the ambulance, they could see a struggle ensuing, Thompson alleged. At that point, Graham indicated that the defendant had a knife. It was a blade, a folding knife approximately 4 inches in length when folded. Now, Graham said it was unclear whether the weapon was equipment from the ambulance or if it actually belonged to the alleged perpetrator. It was recovered inside the ambulance by investigators. When Boswell attacked the cop last week during another incident, she noted that the officer who had just gotten off of work allegedly spotted Boswell trying to get into people's cars, including his own, and had a knife on his police vest that she tried to grab several times, according to her probable cause statement. He kept Boswell from grabbing his knife and tried to get his police radio to get help to his location, the statement says about the April 23rd incident. When he was reaching for his radio, Boswell took advantage of the situation and bit him on his left forearm. Now, she refused to let go, and he tried to yank his arm free. Uh, as it could possibly rip a chunk out of his arm. Now, officers of Kansas City, Missouri Police Department then soon arrived on scene and placed Boswell into custody. After stabbing Hoffman on Sunday, Boswell allegedly pulled a similar move on an officer who was following the ambulance. Court documents alleged that that police officer was trying to stop Boswell from getting in the driver's seat of the ambulance when she bit down on his arm. He was only able to get her off using the butt of his service weapon to motivate her by touching the back of her head with his force multiplier. When asked if Boswell has a, history of mental health issues, Thompson said, "In the state of Missouri, all defendants are presumed to be competent." Well, that was your first problem. Any issues with mental health can be addressed during court proceedings. Boswell's bond for the charge in the paramedic's death was set at $1 million. So there you go. Just absolutely redonkulous. In my biggest fear, and Mr. Moe was the one, I was not going to get any of my boys, have them do anything to their pieces and parts. Mr. Moe felt it was important, but this is like straight out of a new mom's nightmare. I can't imagine. And what the hell happened here? Because this makes me rageful. How does that happen? Parents say that their newborn nearly bled to death after a hospital circumcision. Now, I don't know what the hell, but don't you come back to my room if my baby is hurt. Like, just don't do it. Parents Tim Groth and Gabrielle Groth are currently living a nightmare at a New York City hospital as their newborn son, who was born with a congenital heart defect, is fighting for his life in the ICU after nearly bleeding to death following a circumcision, the couple say. Can you imagine scheduling your son's, circumcision and possibly having him no longer be living? Is what Tim Groth wrote in an online GoFundMe description, which describes his son's health situation and what he says he's gone through so far. Now, the Groths say they welcomed their baby boy Cole on March 31st at New York Presbyterian Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital in Manhattan. Now, Cole had a stent placed due to a congenital heart defect or disease, but was said to be one of the healthiest babies on the floor, according to his family's, telling of this. He was scheduled for a circumcision on April 14th, with the Gross claiming that health complications came the next day. On Monday, 4/14, around 11 p.m., Cole was circumcised. Between 9 a.m. and 9:30 a.m., Cole suffered some sort of event that had him nearly bleeding to death. Now, this is what's on the GoFundMe. I walked in and he was extremely pale, Gabrielle told local CBS affiliate WCBS, describing the experience of seeing her baby in the neonatal intensive care unit. He is crying like I've never heard before. It was not the healthy boy I had just seen the day before. Now, Tim Groth told CBS News that throughout the night for 10 plus hours, he bled and suffered multiple complications. The vital organs of his body lost blood and oxygen, and he suffered liver, kidney, and brain damage. How does that happen in a cardiac NICU? That is a good question. Now, according to the Gross, Cole was taken into emergency surgery, and doctors were forced to remove a portion of his intestines that had died as a result of the health crisis. He, at one point, was sitting in the ICU with many tubes, medications, and fluids, just trying to take care of his tiny body. After cutting him open, they found 5 segments of his intestines had died, turned black, and that basically they had ruptured. There was waste, human waste in his abdomen. And they identified several other areas in the intestines that might go necrotic as well. Now, Tim added, the words can only touch the surface of the pain Cole, my wife, and our family have, been dealing with both physically and emotionally from this. Now, the Groth says that Cole has been undergoing daily transfusions due to his health problems, and he's had at least 4 surgeries so far. Trying to understand how you go from a circumcision to what, seems to be a stable baby to a baby in crisis. He asked several times in the family's GoFundMe description where the accountability has been, taken. The hospital officials have declined to comment publicly about Cole and what the parents say happened. So look at this becoming a major lawsuit. Again, while there might be underlying, maybe lack of clotting factors or anything of this. Now, I will say that this is a deeply personal issue. I personally was against it. Now, not being a boy, I kind of deferred to Mr. Moe's beliefs and kind of dealings about all of this. Um, so it is a deeply, deeply personal, issue. I'm not a fan of it. I, in fact, told the nurses, do not tell me when you are taking my baby to go do that because I will not let him leave. So that being said, it is deeply personal. But it does seem like there might be other underlying health things or something went very, very wrong, and I do wanna know answers about what went on in this case. And what the hell is wrong with road ragers? Absolutely, this man is the reason the aliens won't visit. Mr. Mo is not Jewish. I think it's more just a personal cleanliness thing. Sounds like a good plan, Jeffrey. That would be my only technical advice to you. I have just no font of wisdom to give you for technical stuff, but that would be what I would guess. Now, this absolute redonkulous, person is the reason that 2 little boys are no longer with us. Again, drive carefully, drive safety. You have a potentially dangerous weapon in your hands. Could we all agree that we should not drive like assholes? The signs of life were ignored. A driver slammed his car into horse stables at 120 miles per hour, unfortunately ending the lives of 2 little boys that were playing with play trucks. A Utah jury determined that a 28-year-old man acted with depraved indifference when he drove 120 miles per hour while high on, well, crystal, plowing through horse stables where he killed and hit 2 precious little toddler boys who were playing with tow trucks. Kent Cody Barlow. I mean, could we get any more country music festival awards? Kent Cody Barlow, of course. Also, you're making us hillbillies look bad. Lightning Leaf, I went back to see your commentary from, the CW versus Karen Reed. Is there any difference between morning Mo versus afternoon Mo? Well, afternoon Mo last night when I was doing my breakdown had the hiccups, and she was thoroughly done with any talk of cell phones. So, There's usually a bit more doneness. Yes, usually he is definitely a Lord Chippy candidate. I mean, again, if you're going to method act with Crystal, that's a you thing. Let's not try to bring everyone down to your level, jerkface. Now, he was convicted for the deaths of 3-year-old Odin Ratliff and Hunter Jackson. Now, on May 2nd, 2022, he was driving recklessly and ignoring his passengers' repeated pleas for him to slow down as he sped along Tiffany Lane in Eagle Mountain, which is about 30 miles northwest of Provo. Now, unfortunately, going 120 miles per hour on the meth, he lost control and crashed into Cedar Valley stables, the Utah County Attorney's Office said in a press release. Now, Michael Stars, the deputy Utah County attorney, told jurors in his closing arguments that the boys were having a great time with each other, picking up chicken eggs, chasing cats, according to a courtroom report from local NBC affiliate KSL. But that fun unfortunately turned into tragedy when Bartlow floored the accelerator, traveling 120 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone, headed toward the stables despite seeing all the activity there. So these little guys were, I mean, I can tell you, having had little guys, this is absolutely, my little boys would be having a blast at a horse stable, out in a farm, all that dirt. So just this absolute douche canoe, not listening to anyone, thinking he's Billy Badass, driving 120 effing miles an hour. Sir, that's the only time you've been fast in your entire life. Just human corroditated trash water behavior. Now, prosecutors also pointed out that he has previously been convicted of driving over 100 miles per hour some 3 years ago before the fatal crash and ignored a judge's warning that his speed could prove deadly. Now, Bartlow's attorney, Justin Morrison, conceded that his client was a little high. He was just a little high, just a scotch high, just a scotch, just out of his minds on, methamphetamines, as you are. It was a Tuesday. But he argued that he didn't mean to lose control of the car and certainly had no intention of hitting the boys. That he is not a cold blooded killer. No, you're not a cold blooded killer. You're a dumbass killer. And that's worse because you didn't even think. You didn't even care. I mean, at least with a cold-blooded killer, they go in with a mission and they get that mission accomplished. However heinous and disgusting and gross, it is, at least they went in with a mission. You just were picking your nose and, I don't know, putting your finger up your bum hole as you were going 120 miles an hour and ran over some kids. So I don't care if it was unintentionally, male Sarah Boone. Go to jail. Like, go. Goodbye. Bye, Felicia. Bye, Cody. Like, go. Now, surprisingly, the families of young Odin and Hunter could give two shitlets whether this man didn't intentionally do anything. I know you're shocked. There was never a question of, the defendant's guilt. Hearing the words guilty of depraved indifference murder is what we've been fighting for. Odin's mother, Teresa Ratliff, told KLS after the verdict, "That's what we got because that's what he's guilty of." Barlow is slated to be sentenced on June 30th. He faces 15 years to life in prison. Bye for life. Bye. See ya. Drop the soap or don't. It's a personal choice. Well, we needed some good faith and humanity stories after Lord Chippy because we always do. A Florida man evades, swamp puppies to save an injured American bald eagle. I mean, look at this this man braving gators to go save a bald eagle. It almost makes me want to tear up. An American hero risked his life swimming to the aid of America's national bird, facing a possible alligator in the process. Doug Hay told Fox 13 Tampa Bay that on April 19th he heard a splash in the lake behind his Lakewood Ranch, Florida home, and he and his wife went to investigate the noise and saw a bald eagle in the center of the lake with another bald eagle circling above. Now, Hay believes that the two eagles were fighting with one another when one became seriously injured and landed in the lake. Now, seeing the eagle in trouble, he jumped into the lake and started swimming toward it. That would be a no. Like, I would take a boat. Like, I'm not gonna fight a gator for, but I will take a boat, where I am on the dry land-ish, sort of, and go rescue it. Now, Hay told Fox 13 that the eagle landed smack in the middle of the 100-yard lake, but he also knows that a 7-foot alligator lives in that water. Now, according to the National Eagle Center, bald eagles can use their wings to swim like oars if they catch a fish a little too heavy to lift. However, since this eagle was injured, it was not really making it, you know, so far with this whole swimming thing. I love that the wife is taking the photos just in case the gator comes up to get her husband. I mean, that's why I would be there, obviously, to also document. Now, Hay reached the eagle which grabbed his arm with its talons, and the pair barely made it to shore because Hay, who is 69, said he was very tired. Hay's wife caught the whole incredible rescue on camera. In a follow-up video, Hay shows the eagle on the lakeshore and says he hopes it will be able to fly off. Oh my Bob Ross. This is amazing. Joe Dirte, I love your new look. I love your new look, Joe Dirt. Now, the Wildlife Center of South Florida in Venice is now caring for the eagle, which is recovering from an extensive wound to its thoracic cavity. He also suffered more wounds to his arm. You know, Hay did because, eagles and talons. But he said he would do it again to save, the symbol of America again. So there you go. Well, I mean, isn't it about the same thing? Fighting and loving is a very fine line. Well, now I don't know who, again, I don't know who needs to hear this, but public service announcement, do not get cosmetic surgery in someone's basement. I don't care what their LinkedIn profile says. Getting, boob implants or butt implants in someone's den is a bad idea. I don't know why I keep having to say it. You would think one public service announcement would be enough, but apparently, people can be vain and we can, want to take a little bit of a price cut when it comes to our butt implants. A sham plastic surgeon describes a New York City's mom's final moments before dying in a botched butt implant procedure. Quote, I panicked. Um, one things I never want to hear from my doctor is I'm kind of freaking out, man. A sham doctor is charged with killing a mom of two, described to cops how his patient started slurring her words and losing consciousness following a botched butt implant removal procedure at his Queens apartment. Again, do not get surgery done in someone's apartment. Prompting him to panic, prosecutors revealed on Monday. Now, Felipe Hoyos Fernanda, 37, was moments from boarding a flight to Florida at JFK Airport when police nabbed him on March 28th, just hours after Penloza was left brain dead by the illegal $1,900, dollar procedure in his Astoria living room, according to the indictment. I injected her in the ass. He allegedly told cops bluntly when he was hauled back to the precinct for questioning. I mean, I guess if you can't, if you can't remain silent, blame it on the booty. After I injected her, she started to speak funny. Then she stopped speaking and then she tensed up. Ferranda continued, according to prosecutors. Slurred speech is normal during this type of anesthesia, he allegedly insisted, while noting that even though, after she tightened up, she didn't really respond. He was still kind of okay with it. He's like, look, it's kind of normal ish. I learned about this on the Discovery Channel. Now, the mother, uh, Penlosa, 31, was rushed to the hospital by paramedics, and Ferranda was then hastily cleaning up the room and made a beeline to the airport. So this doctor was like, I'm a haul ass to the airport and leave the country. Uh, he had booked a flight to Florida, then en route to Colombia, so he could evade arrest and prosecution because he claimed he was scared. Now, and yes, we can. Snake Island for this man. Sometimes Lord Chippy is busy, so he can just go to Snake Island since he wanted to leave the country. That being said, outside the courtroom, the mother, Gladys Cabrera, blasted the accused quack as an assassin. He's a danger to society. This was premeditated. And mother, gosh, I don't want to yell at the mom, but look, your daughter decided to allow a man to operate on her for $1,900 in his living room. I don't want you to have lost your daughter. I don't want you to have lost your baby girl. I can't imagine the pain you're going through, but your daughter did make a choice to see an unlicensed, surgeon to do some fairly invasive butt implant removals. So, yeah, he's not a doctor, but your daughter made that choice too. So, I am incredibly sorry for you, but the choices were made. Now, the dead woman's sister, Lucy Penalosa, called for him to, Ferranda to pay the consequences. The family is paying the consequences, and we're waiting for him to suffer for the full weight of the law. How many women have been affected? So again, just don't go have surgery in basements. I don't know what to tell you. Just don't. If you're thinking about going to get, a surgery in a basement, and this woman was beautiful, she didn't need any help. Absolutely a beautiful woman. So there you go. Those are the news stories. Again, public service announcement. Mind your P's and Q's on the road and don't get surgery in someone's living room. I am going to hop off here and go join Baker over on Karen Reed. It is day 6. So, who knows? We are supposed to get more cell phone magic and all of that. I will see you guys over there. Thank you for spending your morning with me, for, going through news and all this craziness. I will see you in just a little bit. Bye, you guys.